Taking the chance, stuck in my head, not gonna leave it at that. Taking the lead, feeling your heat, just wanna give you my best. I don't even know your name, but you got me, 'cause you're on the die. We don't know what happens next, but you got me, 'cause I'm next in line. You make it look so easy, making me feel so dreamy. Not the one who pays for drinks, but you got me, 'cause you're on the die. Got me locked in now. Go ahead and take a shot. Do you really want me? Maybe you're just playing. The way you're making it move, yeah, you do it so smooth. Make it all about you. Can have it all if you want. Taking the chance, stuck in my head, not gonna leave it at that. Taking the lead, feeling your heat, just wanna give you my best. Taking the chance, stuck in my head, not gonna leave it at that.
I can't get you out of my mind. Oh baby, every curse like a new adventure, pulling me into the center closer. Yeah, baby, I'm not playing around. I mean every little word. I can't get you out of my mind. Oh baby, every curse got me going crazy. Can't control it, cannot see it all. Man.
Hey guys, this is your boy Rodney Howell, and welcome to another episode of Shop Talk. Let's get right into it, you guys. We are going to be talking about dating and marriage outside of your race. That's a pretty hot topic. So I have some friends on that are going to be very transparent about this dating thing and the marriage outside of their race. You know, sometimes it can be complicated. So let me bring in my girlfriends, Miss Joy Santiago Clark. Hey, Joy.
Hey, Rodney.
Right there, y'all. This is Miss Joy. And then let me have Sheila, Miss Asbury. Look at Sheila. Sheila looks good. Hey, beautiful. You okay?
How are you?
I am wonderful. Sheila came in to get her hair done, y'all, so she looks really good. And Joy, you look fabulous as always, babe.
Yes, as always.
Now, I had to bring my sister Dawn on. Dawn, where are you?
Hi.
There she is. That's my girl, Dawn.
Hey, Dawn.
Hey, guys. What's up?
We are going to have a great time, you guys. This young lady is actually my cousin, and her name is Tony. Tony, you want to come on in? There she goes, and Tony's got the love of her life right there plastered behind her. It's so good. I'm so glad that you guys are on tonight with me. And Tony came on just to talk about dating outside of her race. She has a wonderful gentleman that she's been dating for a while. So she's going to share with you guys about her experience and her dating with her guy. So, Tony, you're on mute, and I don't know if Tony's going to be able to hear us. I don't know why she went to mute. Tony, can you hear us? You're on mute. You are on mute. So she's working on doing that. So we just want to, there you go, Tony, you on?
Yes, sir.
There you go. There you go. She has it. Tony's on a slight delay, you guys. So if we're a little delayed, just overlook that. We are going to make this happen. So I want to start with my sister Joy Santiago Clark. Now, Joy, tell everybody what your nationality is.
Well, my nationality is American, but my ethnicity.
Okay.
My ethnicity is.
My bad. And I'm sorry, Joy. What is it? So everybody.
I'm Filipino.
Joy is Filipino. You know, a lot of people thought that you were black, Joy, just a light-skinned sister. But she is a sister. She's got a little black in her. She has a little black in her a few times out of the week.
Oh, goodness, Rodney.
A little later. But Joy, let everyone know Joy's married to an amazing guy, which is our brother, and his name is John Clark. And John is an African-American brother. So Joy, just if you could share your experience, and I'm waiting for the questions to come up, but if you could share your experiences about what would you marry or date outside of your race, which of course you did.
Yeah.
Why did you marry outside of your race, Joy?
You know, it's really funny because I don't think it was, I think it was, I never discriminated and in a way that not to be racist, but also I just kind of looked at everybody the same. And, you know, it's really funny because people think that I chose Black man.
Mhm.
But, you know, truth be told, Black men always chose me, you know? And
Right.
Go ahead, Joy.
I'm talking about.
so, yeah, I mean, obviously I married a Black man and I love it. You know, I love being married to John, but in the end, you know, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I think it's just love is love.
Right, exactly, Joy. And it would be so wonderful if everyone thought that same way that you do, in the same way that all of us do, because we're a fun-loving group of friends and we just love one another. But we also know that there's some complications that comes with dating outside of your race. Sheila, I want to ask you the same question. Why would you date outside of your race if the opportunity ever came?
You know, when I was younger, I probably would have said no. I would not have, not to be racist or prejudiced or anything like that, but it just never crossed my mind. And I actually grew up where Black folks was the minority. It was just a couple of us in school. So I was surrounded by other races and I just never gravitated to it. Just didn't. Many friends of different ethnicities, not nationalities. We're all American. But just didn't. But now, as I'm getting older, I'm trying to broaden my horizon and open my eyes to different things. I've never been approached in my now single years from anyone outside of my race, and I don't even know how to approach them, to be honest.
Right.
In that way. I mean, I'm sure it's the same, but I just have never had that experience yet. But I'm more open to it now than I ever have been.
Okay, great. So you are open to it. Can you tell me why now that you're open to it?
Because I'm single.
Right. Okay, love to mingle.
And I don't have a whole bunch of folks knocking on my door of my race. So
As beautiful as you are, I don't understand.
It's just because I'm not out that it's not that nothing's wrong with me. It's just that I'm not out there. I don't present myself out there. And I think, you know, because I'm not on dating sites, I think that's where you find it more. Right. And I have a rule at work that I don't date at work. So anyone that's not that's even a Black person at work, I'm not going to date them. Because that's my career, and if it doesn't work, I still want to work there. So I just don't have many choices or places to go where the opportunity presents itself.
Right. Now, Sheila, you made a great point about being in school. A lot of times we look for good schools for our children, and it's so unfortunate that they aren't in our communities. You know, you have to go outside of the city, and here we're in Detroit, outside of the Detroit public school system in order to find good schools. And a lot of times what ends up happening is that we take our kids and we're taking them for one thing so that they can get a good education, but then we're putting them into an area or space, if you will, that have multiple ethnicities. And sometimes they end up dating outside of their race, because usually what happens, what I find, and I spoke with my goddaughter, she goes to Cranbrook, and she likes a Asian guy, no pun intended, Joy. But I asked her, and she's biracial. So I asked her, I was like, well, are there any Black guys at school that you like or somebody, and that you would even date? And she's like, well, Uncle Rodney, there are none. So you're put in a situation like that, and you know, our kids aren't exposed to a lot of people that are of their own race. So have kids. You have 2 kids. Now, I put you on the spot.
It's okay.
You have a son. You have a son. And I just was wondering, did your son, the school, because they went to very nice schools, did your son so happen decide to date outside of his race, or your daughter, because of the environment that they were in, the educational environment?
Yeah, so my son's younger. They're both grown, by the way, but my son's younger, and they both were exposed to multicultural environments. My son more so than my daughter. They're 7 years apart, and she's older. So with him going to school as a young Black man, in his mind, there wasn't that many African American women or girls. So he tended to date outside of his race. And of course, his dad promoted it because nothing wrong with the lady, but he married a Filipino after the war. For my son, I wanted him to, this is just me as a mom, as a Black. And by the way, my mother's biracial, so I'm not all the way Black either.
Yeah, you know what? But Sheila, we want to keep it real. We shouldn't have a problem. Hold on, Sheila. We shouldn't have a problem with our race dating inside our race, because I strongly believe that we need more strong African American families.
Right.
So we just want to be transparent. Everybody has a choice. Everyone has one, and everyone has an opinion on what they think. So don't apologize and don't.
I shouldn't. I'm just being, I don't want to offend anyone out there. But I just wanted him as a young
girl. Either way it go, they're gonna be offended.
Well, you know what? It don't really matter.
There you go. So go ahead.
But for me, as a young Black man, I want him to find who he was culturally. We can instill so many things in him, but I just want him to, before he went outside his race as a young teenager or a very young man, understand Black women. And then if you decide later, I understand joy, love is love. I get that. And I promote that with my kids, but I just want him to really embrace our culture, because I feel like, and not necessarily with him, but just in some young Black men, they're afraid to date their race because they have people around them. And so that's the easy way out. And I'm like, no, learn a Black woman first. And if you decide later in life that you want, and you find love somewhere else, then that's fine. But it's me, I shouldn't say that. My daughter dated a white person too, but
but those are good points, and we're gonna come back to that. I want to talk to Tony, my cousin Tony. Now, she is dating currently now outside of her race to a wonderful gentleman, and it's a little delay on hers. But Tony, I want to ask you, what prompted you, or how did you end up deciding to date outside of your race? Was it because there was a lack of African American brothers, or were you just open? Could you share your story with us?
Well, it started with me deciding I wanted to be happy. I don't care what color you were.
All right.
At first, I was just, okay, every Black man, that's it. I'm just going to talk to them. But that didn't work. So I said, let me open this up. Let me stop being closed-minded, closed-hearted, and stop worrying about what everybody else thought. Focus on what I want, what I need, and this is what came with that.
And it's working out for you. I've talked with you, and you said it's working out for you. How long have you guys been dating?
It was 2 years in September.
Awesome. That's awesome. So now we want to get to our sister Dawn. She's got all her Black on, Black power, my sister. But Dawn is real deep, you guys. But Dawn, I want to ask you, because you are dating. You're not dating someone, but you're in the process. And I know you told me you're reflecting on Dawn, and you're trying, which is really cool. But Dawn, we got a commercial break coming up. I was just told him we're going to have to come back to what I want to ask you. So just stay tuned, you guys. We're going to take a commercial break, and we will be right back with a little bit of shop talk.
Get it that I'm never going back. Get it that I'm never going back. I get to it first, I got you mad. I guess that when I get to it last. Get it that I'm never going back. Get it that I'm never going back. Going up, going up, going up, going up, going up, going up. Get it that I'm never going up, going up.
we are back. I got a little Facebook thing going on in the back, so I'm like double doing 2 shows at one. But we want to get right back to Dawn. Since Dawn, you are out in the dating pool or what have you, or if you decide to do it, I know you have been before. Would that be an option for you to date outside of your race?
That's a great question. I think it's always an option.
Mm-hmm.
Because like Joy, I do believe love is love. However, I think that it's so important to me because Black, African American in particular people have been through so much, and our family structure was broken
Yes.
intentionally, that it's almost as if it's not like I just gravitate towards my culture, my race.
Right. Right.
And that's just a preference of mine. And I do want to date a Black male for numerous of reasons. And I'm just attracted to. And then 2, it's just very important for me to have that African American, Black family strong structure and building that foundation and building generational wealth and like changing the trajectory of, Black, how we're looked at.
Right, how we view, and that's so important, Dawn, and I commend you on that. And I always we always have fun, and I always tease you about it. I tell you that white guys are, because went out on a lot of events, and guys thought that Dawn was my wife, which I was totally honored. But there was a lot of Caucasian guys that would come up to me and they were like, "Man, your wife is beautiful." So I always told Dawn I thought that she would date a Caucasian guys because they tend to, and look at Tony, look at Dawn, and Joy's, a little different, but Caucasian guys tend to gravitate to darker skinned women. So they it seems like it's their preference. I know majority of friends. Dawn.
Yeah, I think it's because just like anything else, what we call exotic, right? It's the complete opposite of you.
Right.
And that's exotic to them. And someone that's closer in complexion, like a fair skinned biracial person, may not be as attractive because that's closer to their own race.
Right.
So it's not as exotic.
Right. So I want to get these questions in. So I'm waiting for the next question to come up. How did you marry the initial race conversation? How did you manage the initial race conversation?
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting question.
Okay, yeah. Joy, you want to answer that?
Well, you know what? It's how did you manage the initial race conversation? I'll tell you the conversation I had with my parents. Because
that's important.
It is, and I'm first generation born here. My parents immigrated to the United States from the Philippines in the 60s, and I was born in the 60s. Don't tell anybody.
Right.
So, it was really interesting because initially when we talked about it, they said, "Hey, we really want you to marry a Filipino man."
Right.
And I grew up in Ann Arbor, and the school I went to was diverse, but it was predominantly white.
Right.
And so there were no Filipinos. There were very few Asians, and all the Filipinos that I knew were my parents' friends' kids. So why would I have to date them? They're like my cousins, right? So, grew up with them. So it was really interesting. And so, for whatever reason, Black men gravitated to me. And so my parents are like, "Oh my God.
Right.
You're not." And it's really interesting. And we're going to just be open and frank.
Yeah, we want to be, Joy. The same thing happens in Black families. Ooh.
Okay, so yes.
Tony, get ready, Tony, because I have you to speak on that next. Go ahead,
because the same thing happened. I'll let Tony speak on it, but the same thing happened when I was introduced to my husband's family. But yeah, I mean, my parents were not happy with it, because I think it was just prejudice, it was ignorance, and they just didn't know. At the time they were in their maybe 30s, late 30s, early 40s when I started becoming a teenager and adult.
Right.
And so they were just, they weren't happy with me dating outside of the Filipino race at all.
Right. And Joy, and I think sometimes it's not always racist. When people say, because Dawn, said that her preference is African American. So, and I don't think that, not saying that you call Dawn a racist, but sometimes people just want to, or their parents want them to date within their own race. So, Tony, can you speak to that, Tony? When you told my cousin, your mama, that you were dating, but Tony, you're grown now, but you're a grown woman. But I know that family always have an opinion when it comes to something like that, and a very strong opinion. So, Tony, what did your mom or your kids or your girlfriend say about you dating outside the race?
Well, it was mainly mama. She grew up in that time
Era.
where it was segregated and there was like flat out blatant racial tension everywhere. So
Right.
when I said, okay, mama, the next person I bring may not have melanin in their skin, her first reaction was, well, you're gonna have to go through the back door since I had to go through the back door.
Oh wow.
And I'm like, so what you're saying is as long as he has melanin, but he doesn't treat me with respect, he doesn't love me, he doesn't care about my feelings or anything, it's okay that he comes through the front door because he's black.
Black. Right.
But if he's melanin challenged, but he treats me with respect, he loves me, and he treats me like a queen, he has to come through the back door because he's white
Right.
or not black. And she got quiet. She looked and she was like, okay, he can come through the front door. So she had to understand that just because they have melanin does not mean that they're right, because all my life, that's all I've dated is black. And
Right.
none of those worked, not even the one that I married and had a son by. So I have a black son. I was married to a black man, but didn't work.
So
now,
so you just expanded your horizons. You didn't want to limit yourself to just one race.
And hers too.
Right. There you go. But listen, we have to be very sympathetic, you guys, to our elderly
generation.
That generation, we know about it, and which is really sad. We know about it, but we didn't experience what they experienced.
Right.
So
That's right.
it's kind of hard for us to. You got to give them a break. Because, and even now, the way that we're being treated, not necessarily your man, Tony, but the way that African-American men are being treated, we see it every day by people of the Caucasian race. It makes you kind of angry. And we know that's just a group of people. It's not everybody, just like all black people are. But black people are more accepting of races than they are to us. Now, Tony, what about his family? Did you meet his family, and how did his family feel about you?
Surprisingly, when I got there, I was like, I didn't know what to expect. I was already comfortable because I was comfortable with me, and I knew how I was, and then the way he was. So when I met his mother and stepfather, as soon as I walked in the door, they didn't just say hi. She ran over and she hugged me. And then her husband hugged me too. And it was like, I'm so glad that you're here. And when we sat down and talked, she was like, I don't care what color you are. As long as my son is happy, as long as you're happy, I'm happy. So I love her.
And that's nice. And that's nice. I like that, but we know that realistically that doesn't always happen. So we have another question, you guys. Let's get into this next question. When dating outside of your race, do you feel uncomfortable in public? So, Tony, when you first started dating your guy, taking him to the family functions or, hanging out in, I'm going to say in a black area, predominantly African-American area, did you feel uncomfortable?
Nope, not at all.
You didn't. How did people perceive you?
Actually, no one, anywhere that we've gone, no one has had anything negative to say.
Oh, girl, you really going in the right circle.
Well, Rodney, you know what? You know what? Sometimes people don't they don't judge a black woman dating a white man or
I
a
was just
man
gonna
of
say
another
that.
color as
There
they
you go.
do a black man dating
Yeah.
outside
A
their
white
race.
woman.
Yeah.
You
And
get the
see,
side eye when
right.
you're
Yeah.
a black man dating out your race, but sometimes when a black woman date outside her race, is like, you go, girl, you got
Yeah.
that. It's a harder prize to get. I hate to use that word, but that's the word that people use. For example, I was in the Easter market, and this black lady at the event yesterday. Black lady had a cute little white guy, and everybody was wooing all over, like, how's she get him? But if that had been reversed, we would have been sucking our teeth and, like, oh, he couldn't have,
I get it all the
rolling
So
the neck.
Sheila, speak to you personally, being transparent. How do you feel when you see a brother with a Caucasian young lady?
Honestly, I used to be upset back in the day. I ain't even gonna
Right.
lie. I was power
Right.
to the
Yeah.
people all
Just
day
being
long. Not in a racist way, but just
right.
like, there's a lot of very good sisters out here that are available, that are pleasant. They have a lot to offer. And did you even try?
Right.
And that's my thing. Did you even try? So, you don't know everyone's story, right? Everyone can have a bad experience with love, with different races, or they just want to like me now in my age. I used to be like Don. I just want to be here, but I've already had kids. I've established that, so I want love. But I used to be that person, not side eyeing anybody, but it's like, did you what about me? That.
Right. Exactly.
Now I don't do that. I make a conscious effort because I'm a Christian first. So we want to love everyone.
Right.
So I had to check myself in that regard to make sure that I'm not, blocking my blessings because I'm getting in the way of somebody else and their so-called blessings. So.
Right. Well, okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate. And Dawn, I'm going to ask you this question. And you know what most brothers think, I always get it in the salon. Most brothers think that African-American women are kind of hard to deal with. They're very mouthy. They're very opinionated. And sometimes they say that's why they go the other way.
But how did you
I'm just saying. So, Don, what do you say to that? Because I'm sure you guys heard it before.
We move different, right? Our journey has been different. Our mother's journey was different. Our grandmother's journey was different, and that mentality was passed down generation to generation.
Right.
Our environments are different, and that's why it is so important for Black wealth to happen. Black marriages, strong Black marriages happen, so we can change that, right? But it's coming from somewhere, and not all Black women are like that. But I can tell you that we all have a story. I mean, as is everyone, but Black people in particular have a story that runs deep beyond our own understanding. And these are childhood adversities, our environments, and what we were exposed to. So Black men in particular, they're being raised by single moms. They're being raised fatherless. I mean, because the fathers were not being raised in 2-parent households. It's not something that is I don't know the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, as common as
actually, right, as other races, right? We have so many disadvantages. And so when a Black woman gets with a man, a Black male, I feel like, sometimes it is hard to deal with because she does not necessarily fall into you. When you're in survival state, it's really hard for you to be lean into your feminine energy. I would love to do that. But I'm raising a male. I'm raising a man. Exactly. So I would love to lean into that feminine energy and to have that, but you really do need 2 people to do that. You need it's like we don't have that. So like I have been very fortunate that I know how to balance it, and I'm very feminine. I can still bring that energy, but not all women can. Right. And it's because of the survival state. We don't have that privilege to not be hard and to learn how to be what guys find appealing. I think
that's good, and I think that brothers most definitely should give sisters a chance because there's a lot of beautiful African American women out there, and enjoy nothing against you. But we're going to go to a commercial break, and then we're going to come back, and we want Joy to speak to that and find out with her good-looking husband what the sisters thought about Joy dating him. So to commercial break, you guys, and we'll be back. Shot Dog, dating outside of your race.
baby. Tasting so sweet, acting so rude. Won't you tell me what I'm supposed to do? Yeah. High and low, in between, acting out, make a scene. Working on our body language, working on our body language. Baby, now tell me exactly how you feel. I'm just trying to keep it real. Let me love you on the inside, love you on the inside. Tell me exactly what you mean. You mean everything to me. Let me love you on the inside, love you on the inside. Dance on the beat. I don't want no excuses. You keep me feeling so clueless. I'd like to dream. Keep on dreaming about us, baby. Yeah. Now tell me exactly how you feel. I'm just trying to keep it real. Let me love you on the inside, love you on the inside. Tell me exactly what you mean. You mean everything to me. Let me love you on the inside, love you on the inside.
All right, you guys, and we are back from commercial break. Welcome back to Shop Talk, you guys. And we have some wonderful women here that are talking about dating outside of their race and marrying outside of their race if they would. So before commercial break, we were asking the question on how you feel about being uncomfortable with dating someone that is the opposite race of you. So a lot of times, in public, you'll get stares or what have you. But I know and Sheila brought up a great point that I was talking to Tony about her and her man. Tony's dating a Caucasian gentleman. And I asked her, how was it out in public? And she said they don't have a problem. But usually it's a problem if a brother is dating outside of his race. So, Joy, I wanted you to speak to that. Did you ever have a problem with a sister approaching you or trying to talk to your husband or, just kind of upset because you had them and they didn't?
Oh, all the time. All the time. All the time. Once they figure out that I'm not Black, some people think that I'm Black or Mexican.
Right.
But I get it all the time. I mean, they're like, oh, I get the side eye, every day.
Right.
It happens. It just happens. And it's frustrating. But, I'm just like, he put a ring.
Hello. That was you. You chose you. Go ahead, Joy.
No, I mean, it gets, I want to fight some people sometimes because they've talked to my husband before after I've gone to the bathroom and, this is when we were dating and, it's frustrating. Even when I'm out with a friend of ours that is a buddy of mine who I consider a brother, we were out one day having lunch or whatever, and these women just were mad.
You could feel it, Joy. Did they approach you, Joy, or could you just feel it?
Oh, the waitress, because I asked for like the ketchup bottle on their table, and they went completely off. They're like, oh no, she's been looking over here. I was not looking over there. Okay, they were just upset. They were really upset, and it's comical now, but and like I said, I got a ring on it. I don't know what to tell you, but but I understand as well because I have a lot of female friends who are Black. I think my saving grace, if there is a saving grace, is that I'm a minority also.
Yes.
And so my in-laws were always accepting of that. They were accepting of that anyway. It didn't matter.
Right. And most African American families are accepting to, you know what I'm saying? And we're wonderful people. If it's what I was going to make our children happy or what have you, I think we are more accepting than the other races. to
I agree.
us, you know. So Joy, no worries, baby, because we have adopted you, and you are our
Joy,
sister.
my sister.
You know,
She
no
my
matter
sister.
what ethnicity that you are, babe, you are our sister. And I mean,
That's
people
right.
gonna be jealous anyway because John's a good-looking brother. He's tall, you know.
People just gonna be jealous because she's a beautiful woman. I don't care. That's all.
There you go. So we got quite a few more questions. So our next question: how did you handle your cultural differences? Now, this is very important, and probably more so if you're married and you're raising children, because that becomes a problem. And I want to ask Tony, how did you handle the cultural differences, Tony? Say, for instance, well, you guys are married, so you don't have children together, but just it's culturally the way that we do our holidays, our Thanksgiving, or
Sweet
how.
potato or pumpkin pie. No, I'm
And
saying.
there you go, Sheila. There you go. So Tony, speak to that. Tony, speak to that. How did you handle
Sweet
the
potato pie, pumpkin pie. That's what I want to know.
Okay, I had never had pumpkin pie before, and he had never had sweet potato pie. So
it's true. It's true.
It is.
That's funny.
Who converted, Tony? Who converted? Did you convert or did he convert?
He converted more than I did.
Okay.
But
Smart man.
When I went and had the pumpkin pie, I was like, okay, it's okay. So when he had the sweet potato pie, he was like, oh, this is good. He said it kind of tastes like pumpkin pie, but just sweeter. I was like, mm-hmm.
So that is a thing. That actually is a thing.
It's a thing. Yes, it is.
Wow.
It really is a thing.
That is so funny. So Joy, with you, and I mean, Joy is a cook, you guys. So I don't think that, I don't know if this question is appropriate for you, but I mean, were there some differences with you? And because Joy, you always been around us, so I don't know. I always look at you, Joy, as black.
Well,
She got a black card in her wallet.
When we got married, when John and I got married, you know, he said to me, I didn't realize how Filipino you actually are, you know, and so it's interesting because I cook Filipino dishes all the time, and my family, my stepkids, they eat it, you know, especially Ashley, she even makes it at home. And so, you know, it's really interesting because there is a cultural difference. There's a difference of how you know, and there's difference, but there's a lot of similarities as well. Because not only is it a culture, it's a culture thing, it's not a race thing, it's also socioeconomic. So, and how in the Philippines, how the Philippines was colonized and things like that. So there's some interesting things that, you know, you could really go on a tangent on. But, you know, yeah, there's some different cultures, and in the Filipino household, we didn't have pumpkin pie either. You know, so there was no pumpkin pie. There was, you know, coconut rice cakes or something, you know, or some different Filipino dishes. So there wasn't pumpkin pie versus sweet potato pie.
Right. So Joy, was there something culturally that John's family did that was a little awkward for you? Like I said, you've been around since you were a teenager. You were a baby hanging out with us. So it's like you almost kind of adapt to who we are. But was there something in John's background or his family that they did different than what you guys did that was a little awkward for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that were definitely awkward because I wasn't used to it, being raised by Filipino parents, and also, you know, living in Ann Arbor, which is predominantly white, you know. So it was back then. It's still a very diverse area, but you know, so there's definitely some differences. Like, okay, don't judge me, okay? So when we're riding in the car, I put my feet on the dashboard, and John and my kids are just appalled, right? And I'm like, it's not a Filipino thing, it's a thing, you know. I'm comfortable, but you know, so there's different things like that. But
what about Joy? What about religion?
No, and that's the similarity. We're all raised Christian. I was raised Catholic.
Okay.
I go to a Pentecostal church now, and you know, it's one God. The God doesn't see race.
Right, and that's awesome.
Yeah, that's the same. That's the same there. So there wasn't any differences there.
So it works for you guys. So we have quite a few more questions. If we could come with the next question, how do you manage politic difference and political, differences when it comes to politics?
I don't think you can assume that
Right.
just because, you share the same race, culture, that you're going to have the same political views. I mean, you should if you're getting married to the person, but I wouldn't assume that just because a person is Black that they are, Democrat or.
Well, okay.
I wouldn't assume that either, Don. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, my grandmother is Republican or was.
Joy, we're just hold up on that. We're gonna go to Tony. Tony, can you speak to that? How do you handle the politics, the political differences? I'm sure there is.
No. See, that's what I'm saying. To Don's point, don't assume.
Okay. So
Right.
there you go. Okay, so you
At
got
first, I was like, was he a Republican? Was he a Trump supporter and all of that type of thing? And then, no problems. If we have a question about politics, we just talk about it.
right, which is good.
That's it.
Yes.
Which is good. Okay, get into my sister Joy. Joy, are there any? Hold up before we throw that next question. We're going back to Joy. Joy, are there any political, when it comes to politics with you and your husband, are there any differences there?
Not between me and my husband. There's some members of my family that are Republican.
Right.
And they drink the Kool-Aid as far as, to me.
Right.
But there's I'm not going there. You never talk about that.
Come on, girl.
But
we're talking candid.
It's really funny because one of my family members said to my husband, we were at the dinner table at Thanksgiving, and he said, I'm all about making America great again. This is one of my family members. And my husband went off. He's like, as a Black man, America hasn't been great yet.
Exactly.
We still waiting.
We're still waiting. We get a little comfortable because of the paychecks, but we're not even close to being where it should be. So.
Right. That's true.
No, but I was like,
but you know what? That's the conversation. You know what I'm saying? These are conversations that we need to have. So we can roll our next question. Do you think dating outside of your race requires a lot more work to build strong emotional bonds? Tony? No?
Nope.
Don, what do you think?
Ask the question again.
Do you think dating outside of your race requires a lot more to build strong emotional bonds?
Well, I can't speak to that, obviously, because I've never truly dated outside of my race. However, I think you could be the same. I mean, I can date a Black person, but if he doesn't get my culture, you know what I mean? Like the culture differences is a barrier sometimes to come together as. I think it's when the person understands you, like you can be a white person or Black person and from the same environment and you share the same culture, values and views and have experiences and you can have just a stronger bond because of that. So I don't think it's race.
And that was pretty much what my question was, but it switched a little. But the thing is that it's the norm for it to be a struggle because you're coming from two different totally backgrounds and cultures. And it's already hard enough for a man and a woman to cohabitate because they're different. So now you got a Black man and a white woman or Hispanic or whatever it is. So that tends to be a problem. And I'm speaking not from, just listening to my friends that I have 3 best friends and all 3 of them had married outside of their race. And so we have these conversations. I wish I could have had them here on the show. But it's a struggle sometimes listening to them. Sheila, what do you think about that?
Well, I was going to take a different approach to that. I think that you have to have a stronger bond to deal with the outside forces that we've been talking about.
That's true too.
You got to be really comfortable in the decisions that you've made to publicly promote your love with somebody
Right.
outside your race because of the persecution you're going to get from other people.
Right.
To Don's point, you know, sometimes it can be you need a strong emotional bond within your culture. Some people may say you're not Black enough. We get that a lot, you
Right.
know,
Right.
or depending on how you grew up, or you know, what pedigree did you come from. I was talking to someone yesterday who literally got asked that question by a Black woman, like, who's your family, where are you from, where'd you go to school, who, you know, and that happens within our culture. So
Right.
it's not
Oh yeah, we go to the vineyard, baby, and that's the first question that
my
they
point
ask.
exactly, you know. So I just think I just took that different approach, that you have to be stronger for the outside folks,
Right.
to make sure that you're looking within for yourself, to because that can rip you apart.
Right.
As Joy said, you know, sometimes women, catty women or men, you know, giving you the side eye, you get tired of that. You're like, wait, you got to be bringing it for me to have to deal with all of this.
Exactly.
You know. So I see that part. It's unfortunate you have to do that, but that's kind of how I would answer that question. Is I
Right.
would think it would be stronger for that more so than just two cultures. Because if you really think about it, and we all have friends of different races, when you start listening to everybody's problems and issues, it's all the same.
It's all the
Right.
same.
Exactly.
It's all the
Exactly.
same.
It can be, but it tends to be when you date outside of your race. Sometimes it could be a challenge because you have one race, and of course we know that majority of times when you get married, the woman kind of dominates the relationship, and it kind of goes towards her family and what they do, and then sometimes the African American family, if the man is not strong, then they tend to miss out on the relationships or certain things with
I think
the,
that's a choice.
well, and
I
that's
think
what I said.
that's that is a choice. You got to compromise.
The men have to be strong enough to stand up and
Mhm.
make sure that their children know their culture. Because if you're and a lot of people, I guess they don't understand this, if you're biracial kids are Black and they're going to be identified as Black. And if you don't teach them their culture, then they're going to be in a world of trouble. You know, if you're
Mhm.
raising them like they're white and they're privileged, that they're not, they're going to have a rude awakening. So that tends to, and I'm speaking from experiences from, you know,
Mhm.
people that I know that
It
has been
happens.
a problem. Yeah, and I wish that they could come on, but a lot of times people are uncomfortable with these conversations, and especially if they're in it. So I would have a problem. I think if I went to the movies if I were married to a Caucasian woman and I went to see a slave movie, because I'm keeping it real. When I come out of one of them, I'm hyped. I'm pissed. And I don't care who your ancestors did it. If you didn't, so you're gonna have to prove yourself. So I think I would go home, Tony laughing, but I'm serious. I think I would go home with a problem because we're gonna have a conversation and I need to know. And of course you get that understanding before you get married, but it's gonna be some type of pushback there for me. I'm just saying, me personally. I don't know if y'all get upset when y'all go or y'all just let it ride because it's something that had happened. It's something that's real, and it's something that we're still fighting against today.
Every day.
There's no way that we should be fighting for our rights to
That's true.
vote. That is unbelievable, and we're not doing it to ourselves. Our people aren't doing it to us. It's the white supremacists, the white racists, and it is what it is. Let's call it what it is. You go to the voting polls just recently, ain't no brothers standing there with guns trying to intimidate you. You know, if a brother showed up at the polls with a gun, he's going straight to jail. But a white man,
But one thing, but one thing you want to understand too, and just me, I mean, I know I said I didn't date, but you know, I come from a biracial and a multiracial family, very close, and you have to know who your partner. If
right,
your partner is down with that stuff, then you probably shouldn't be with them. But most times, if you've established that connection with that person and you do go see that, they may have empathy for you, but don't blame them because it's not their fault.
and
This is a
that
teachable moment, and for on
that's
both sides. You know
right.
what I'm
Everybody's
saying?
an
It's
individual.
right.
Granted, but the thing is that it is what it is. What it is.
It
And
is what it
still
is.
there. At the end
It's
of the
raw and
day,
real.
it's
You got
still
to be able to handle it.
there.
You got to
There
be
you
able to
go.
handle
That's how come it's hard. I have a friend of mine. Her daughter dated a Caucasian gentleman, and she had the conversation with him, and she said, "Don't get me wrong. is that I don't dislike you, but I did want my daughter to marry an African American man. But she told him, which was powerful, are you ready for how society is going to treat you and judge you? She said, I need my daughter to be safe. Are you going to be able to protect my daughter? And it's sad that we're living in a society like this, but those are real things. And I wish we had people on here that could speak to that, because it's happening. It's happening every day. We're speaking amongst ourselves. We're a small group. But I really would like to hear some stories, a lot of stories that have not been told, just so that we can educate ourselves, so that we can do better. You know, if you know something, or if you put it out on the table, then we're educating each other so that we can do better. So, but let's go on to the next question. We have several. I came up with that. How would you manage keeping eternal issues separate from your relationships, racial, family, or Joy? Can you speak to that?
I think I don't think that's a race thing. You're talking about external issues. You know, it is what it is. I mean, family is going to come in and voice their opinion no matter what race or ethnicity.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's, you know, and then having different races or different ethnicities comes with its own set of problems. And I think that's what the question is getting at, is that, you know, there's going to be like, okay, so my parents would say, well, when we grew up in the Philippines, it was like this, in the Philippines, it was like that. So there was also an American culture issue,
right,
along with a Black culture misunderstanding or not understanding, you know. And so I think you don't really separate the external issues. You just have to deal with them. You know, you have to, because you have to keep the peace. Your family, you marry a person, but you also marry into a family. Unless you want to live in somewhere with your significant other, you have to be understanding of the external issues.
Okay, where did that go? Okay, so Tony, can you speak to that?
I can just piggyback on what Joy said, because Black or white. Okay, what's going on with my computer?
That's okay.
We can hear you. We can hear you, Tony. Go ahead.
I agree. Now, I'm just agreeing with what Joy said. It's basically the same thing. Because rather, when I was married to a Black man, people had stuff to say. They had more to say about that than they do about me being with a white man.
White guy. Right. So, Tony, have you experienced? I don't know where your boyfriend lives, but have you experienced visiting him and, you know, anything racial happen, you know, within his neighborhood, or were you accepted? Or because I have a friend of mine and he's married, I won't say any names, and married to a Caucasian woman, and they went like up north, if you will, and he was extremely uncomfortable because he was the only Black, and he was treated a little different. Have you experienced that when dating the young man that you're with now?
The only, I guess you can call it, issue that we ever had was we were in South Carolina and we were going to dinner, and I didn't notice the woman, but he did. He said she looked at us and her whole face just kind of got, yeah. And then when I looked at her, she wouldn't look at me. So that was about the only issue, the only bad issue.
Right.
Us being in a relationship. I did have an occasion where I almost threw my coffee on this one woman. It was too early in the morning. Now, I'm standing there with him at the gas station, and he's dancing because he knows I'm sleepy, and he's being silly trying to get me to wake up. So when we got to the register, the woman is flirting with him, and I'm standing there, and I make a comment, like, she's like, "Oh, you dance well," or "I like the way you dance." And I was like, "Yeah, I told him he could dance." And she kind of gave me this look like I'm talking to him, and then she went back to talking to him. And my coffee is in my hand, and I'm like,
"Should I throw this on?"
Should have threw it.
Look, Joy.
So,
Hey.
He was oblivious to the
Me
whole
and
thing.
Joy
I
would
had
have
to
been
tell him. You
fighting
knew she
out
was
at
flirting
a
with
restaurant, at a gas station. But
Yeah, as a
Tony,
woman, you knew it was happening.
right, Tony,
yeah.
how did that make you feel because you were targeted? Because of your race, and then too, maybe it's possible that she didn't think that you guys were a couple.
Oh, she knew. She
Okay.
knew.
Okay, and it happens. It happens. Okay, so we have more questions, you guys. Let's bring up our next question. Is it important to you that his or her family accepts you? Was that important to you, Joy?
oh, absolutely. I think it's important in every situation because
Mhm.
I also married a man with children.
Right,
So not only was it important for me for my in-laws to accept me, it was also important for my stepchildren to accept me as well,
right,
and respect, and I think it's more of at my age and where I am in my life, you don't ever have to like me.
right.
Just respect me.
Respect,
All
right,
you
That's
have to,
right.
because I have people who like and love me and I'm good with that. But if
right,
you disrespect me, that's the issue. But yes, it's important. It was very important. And what's interesting is that what I had to prove to them is that I'm not different. I'm not really different.
right,
My father-in-law was born in 1922, and so
right,
he experienced racism
Mhm.
firsthand. And so
Mhm.
he was fine with whatever because he's a man
right,
first, okay? But it was an issue at first, he's like, he goes into places and he looks around and he's like, "Oh, there's not enough of us." So I had to kind of prove to him and to my mother-in-law um, that hey, I understand what it's like to be um, treated unfairly.
right,
Definitely in different ways. It's different, but definitely I wanted to make sure they knew I could relate.
right.
And
And that's important too, Joy, because you too are a woman of color, and
mhm,
you have, I'm sure, have been discriminated, as well because of your race and who you are. So and racism is racism, but I think me knowing you, you can be more sympathetic to our culture and the way that we've been treated opposed to if it were a Caucasian person, because a lot of times they do not understand or recognize their privilege that they have. So, I'm glad that of course, we all love you, Joy, and I'm glad that
Yes, we do.
John's family accepted you as well as John's kids' moms. That is really awesome that you guys have a
absolutely.
relationship, a great relationship. Speak to that, Joy.
It's really interesting because I call them my baby mamas, and I have a couple of them. But we're all sisters now, and so yeah, it was I got that side eye. I think I probably got that side eye, but they never spoke out to say, hey, it's a problem. Not only as she's with my kid's dad, but she's a different race. That was never really a problem.
Problem, right, right,
More so the fact that again, I'm a minority as well. So I
right,
think
right,
that was different. And I think that it would have been different if I were white, you
right,
know,
right.
and that seems to be a different issue.
Yeah, and the thing is, to join your situation, I absolutely agree with you. I think it would have been different too if you were a Caucasian woman. And I want our viewers to know that we're not racist by any means. What we're speaking on
Not
is
even
how we've
close.
been treated by the white community, all of our ancestors and the history that we have, and we're not hateful people, we're not racist people, but we're reacting to how we've been treated. And to Don's point, we do need more strong African American families, and I'm for that because there's a lack thereof. We don't have a lot of role models when it comes to strong black men. We have them, but like Dawn said, she spoke to that was how they wanted it to be. That was done on purpose. So when you see a successful black doctor and a clear Husted, what was it, Hustable?
Huxtable.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Bill You know, when you see families like that, it's like it makes you feel proud because that's a Black successful family, and we don't have a lot of those, you know, models. So it's not that we're being racist. We love our people. And I appreciate you guys coming on and being transparent. I wish we had more time. All these hot topics, more questions, but it always comes to the end really, really quick. And Tony, I think you, and I follow you and your boyfriend, I think you guys are an awesome couple. And me loving you, babe, I love anybody that loves my cousin and that treats her with respect. He'd be green from Mars. You know, that's all that matters. You know, who am I to be judgmental amongst anybody that, you know, they choose to love? But I think that we all should find love, be it within our race or outside of our race. I think every soul deserves another soul to be loved. It doesn't matter what their skin color is. But I just thought that this was a very needed conversation. And something I think if we speak more about and we can learn from it. They're uncomfortable conversations, but we need to learn from it. So I like to thank my girlfriends, Miss Sheila and Joy and Dawn, for coming on. You know, I couldn't do this without you guys, and definitely my cousin Tony. I appreciate you, Tony, and the time that you came on to share with us. So this is Shop Talk, you guys, and this is the end of another episode, but stay tuned for next week. We will be back with a little more Shop Talk. Thanks, ladies, and have a
everybody.
Much success to you, Tony. I'm waiting on a wedding invitation.
Yes.
Okay.
No pressure. Tony gotta go like this.
We know what you made of. I do better offline, yeah. I've been calling to a guy. I'm in tune with the signs. I'm just trying to let go. I'm just trying to be me. I'm just trying to do fine. More landed with the elevation. Arms strong with the levitation. My third eye needed calibration. That was heat rock when I notated. I've been going crazy. Stone face when I kill beat. Leaving no trace on location. Premeditated, ayy.